Okay, good morning. Welcome to Siman Shin Lamed. We're now discussing the Dina Yoledes b'Shabbos, a woman who gives birth on Shabbos. Very interesting halachas. Says the Mechaber, Yoledes hi k'choyle sheyesh b'y sakona. A woman in childbirth has got the Dina v'choyle sheyesh b'y sakona. It's a shayla pikuach nefesh. U'mechalin oleh haShabbos lechoma shetzricha. And therefore you can mechal Shabbos whatever she needs. Kairin lo chachoma. You're allowed to call a midwife. To bring her from place to place, so that we help her give birth. And you can light a candle for her. Even if the lady giving birth is blind, you're still allowed to light a candle. But to any degree that we can do a shina, we do that. For example, you need to bring a jug. You sort of tie it to her hair. So that's some form of shinui. If you can do a shinui, you should try and do that. Okay, it says in Mishnah Berurah. So a Yoledes v'mechalal Shabbos for her because it's a case of pikuach nefesh. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot and Aleph. Lochein min aroi leisha shehegia lechodesh tshi. Therefore, a woman who's now arrived in the 9th month, lahazmin, it's appropriate for her. Lahazmin b'chol erev Shabbos kol advar matzrichin lo. She should prepare her bag before Shabbos to take into the hospital. The Shema Yizdamin Leidosa b'Shabbos, because maybe she'll have to go into hospital that Shabbos. V'loi titzarich lechal Shabbos, and therefore to minimize Chil Shabbos, to try and put things together before to minimize any Chil Shabbos. B'makom levakom, you're allowed to bring your Yoledes from place to place. V'afilu michus t'chum, even from outside of t'chum. There, you're allowed to light a candle for her. In Hulayla, of course, only if it's night time that it's needed. V'afal pi shechavruseha yodes lasis lo kol advar tzrachim. Even though that we said afilo asuma, even a blind person, and even though her friends can help her in whatever way they need to, at the end of the day, the rabbis understood that a woman is going to feel anxious if it's dark, and therefore you're allowed to light a candle for her to just ease her anxiety, because that's just the psychology of it. The cost for the Tosfos Yoma, the Tosfos Yoma says at the end of Yoma, even if the woman doesn't say anything, doesn't request it, and even the midwife doesn't say anything, Nami Madlikin, you're allowed to light a candle for her. If you take a look at footnote number 4, he says, because generally speaking, a woman in childbirth is, of course, very anxious, and and the anxiety itself could cause her medical situation to deteriorate, and therefore having peace of mind is a very important factor. Including Shabbos. So causing the person to relax and calm down is itself part of the medical treatment. Now, a woman who goes, if Yoledes says to Beis HaCholim, a woman in childbirth who travels to the hospital, that sheish lezares espala omelava achar she'isa. So for the same reason, it's very important to accompany the woman to the hospital to just help her feel relaxed. And therefore the Chazon Ish writes that the husband or somebody else should accompany the woman to the hospital. For Kozvagon Chaim Kanievsky, that if the midwife wants to go with, and therefore if she wants the midwife, the doula, whatever, to go with her, then that is allowed because that's what's needed. And therefore having someone to go with can help her in various situations, and therefore that's allowed. And even if she says she's not scared, he says in the next paragraph, nevertheless you should still go with her. And the Igros Moshe argues on that point, but certainly if she said she's anxious, or you sense that, then one should go with. Okay, summa. So you're allowed to light the candle even for a blind lady giving birth. Afal pisha bezeh, says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Dalet. Afal pisha bezeh lo shaykh taima hanal, because it's not going to help her. Nevertheless, because sadly her life is in darkness. Afal piken miyas v'daita b'nei dolok. Nevertheless, she will find some sort of calm if the light is on. Because if the light is on, others will be able to help me better. And even though putting the candle on or putting the light on is not a medical need, nevertheless, you're allowed to mechal Shabbos, to put the light on for this Yoledes, to kimul rabbanon to Yoledes, he mills sakanta babelav hochi, because putting her mind at rest, removing her anxiety, is a real need that you're allowed to mechal Shabbos for her. Meshaninon, you do a shinui. Vafilu leman da'am b'simen shin chavches, see if you'd gimel, your base. Even though we said for pikuach nefesh you don't need a shinu, hachashani here is different. The childbirth is a natural pain. And even though Baruch Hashem, less than 1 in 1,000 would die, and thank God nowadays even less, in Leida, and therefore we say we try and do a shinui where it's still possible. So long as there's no ikuv, there is no delay for the choyle. But if it's not done b'zrizus, you got to just expedite things and go quickly as you can. That's the run b'shem Rabbi Yonason. If you look at footnote number 6, he says, "Yoledes shesrichel insol lebeis cholim leledus ve'ein hadav dochuf dasakon Rabbi Yashuv sheish lasi al yedei nochri v'lo al yedei Yisrael." It's better if you can to get a taxi driver, a non-Jewish taxi driver, than to get a Yisrael. So if there's no, it's early time in the labor, the contractions are sort of still slow, and you've decided you want to go into hospital, then if you can, to go with a non-Jewish driver rather than the Jewish one would be better. Lahavi lokli, and you're allowed to bring vessels, im shemen v'chiyai gavna, toli b'sa'ara shluka derech ha-metzin. De'enu ki im shvus ba'alma, v'zeh odif me'im tosuch Hashem b'sa'ara, v'tovi esel v'tischit eseh. Better to bring it in a kli than to actually put the oil on her hair and then to sort of squeeze the oil out. Because then you've got problems with schita. Better to bring it in the hand rather than put it in her hair where you've got problems of schita. Let's just do base. A non-Jewish Ovedes Kechovim, you should not really try and offer to help her give birth on Shabbos, even if it doesn't involve necessarily Chil Shabbos. Why not? Says Mishbur Sifkat Ches, during the week, it's a din of Eva. If you don't do it, it's going to cause enmity, which is, of course, you've got to avoid. We stand around and we say, look, I can't be Mechal Shabbos for somebody who himself is not Shomer Shabbos, doesn't keep Shabbos. Because but she's not Jewish. Because I'm Mogen Avram, welcome to Ikal Mechash Le'eva, Gam B'chai Gavna Shari. If there's any cause of enmity, then it's allowed. Shari Yemen Bochilol. V'dad, Arifim Bizmanenu, Afila Yosef Kshem, Ein Mizharim B'zeh Klal. They offer to help a non-Jewish lady give birth, and that's not considered allowed. They go and help non-Jewish people over the Avodah Zarah to, in those days at least, to go and to help them on Shabbos. You can do a drabonon, they say, the African Barer, Issa deraisa v'vade also l'kula alma v'machali Shabbos k'murim hem mezid Hashem yishmerenu. But if you look in footnote number 11, he says b'zmanenu nowadays k'shakerim l'rofe l'tapel b'nochri, if they're not, your non-Jewish neighbors knock on your door and they need you to help, you're allowed nowadays to even do a melacha d'oraisa to help them, because of course it will cause enmity if you don't, if you don't help, and it could cause ultimately sakonis nefashos, and therefore nowadays it would be allowed to help in that situation. Okay, better leave it there.